Thanks for joining Sales with Suli, a mom of three who spent the last 12 summers knocking doors. Welcome to my podcast where I talk about all things women, the ups and downs of my journey, and what it takes to find success on and off the doors. Enjoy this episode. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode. I am super grateful and excited for today's guest. Again, I cannot even just express how grateful I am just for social media and just for the internet and the platform that allows me to be able to connect and meet with women like Morgan, who we're going to be having here in a second, and then just so many of you like out there in this space. Again, I'm truly grateful for the time that you guys take to be able to come and share your guys' story. And I have been waiting for this one. I have been waiting for Morgan to make her way down here to little old Utah and be able to share her story. So I am going to let Morgan introduce herself. Just tell us a little bit about you, when you got into the door-to-door space, and just kind of like what it looks like for you now.
Morgan Monsees is my name. I've been in the door-to-door space really just about a year.
Which is crazy, because now you're just like running a team and a market and everything. Like you're the whole company.
Yeah. Well, and it's the way it's all evolved is really interesting, but it's really, when you think about it, that's what's cool about door-to-door is you can really progress very quickly.
Yeah. 1,000%. And so I remember when I first met you and had like reached out and we were interacting on social media, you were with a different company. And kind of what I want to do, like right now, what's happening in a lot of different states is a lot of uncertainty. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of reps who are either transitioning from different industries or transitioning from one company to another. And I have kind of watched your journey from the previous company to where you are now and just flourishing and things like that. And so I kind of want to have you share your story on where you started and why the transition and where you're at right now.
Mm-hmm. So I guess just to kind of cut the beginning kind of short, how I ended up in door-to-door.
Yeah.
So I was in tech sales for 9, almost 10 years before door-to-door.
I didn't know it was tech sales.
Yeah.
That's
so I
cool.
did software specifically for like K through 12 state and local government, and then finance and healthcare, which is like so boring to me now that I look back on it. But it was just kind of the way that the career ended up. And then I got laid off, and it was like overnight I needed a job, and I had, rent to pay, things like that, where I couldn't have this, 3-month-long interview process to find a new job, which is really kind of typical for corporate jobs. Yeah. So I ended up working. I knew about this gentleman named Zach Ross through his wife. Actually, now they're married now, and saw them posting on social media and started with Arcadia. Literally, I wanted to start that day. I told Zach, I went in for an interview.
And you're like, when do I start?
Yeah, I was like, I want to start. He's like, I think you should, take a couple of weeks, week or 2 weeks, just to like
think about it,
reset. Not even think about it, but just take a break, because I'd been working. Hadn't had more than 2 weeks of vacation a year.
Got it.
And then he was like, just take a week, take 2 weeks. So I started November 12th of 2019. So my first full month was that December.
Holy cow!
So I was really only with Arcadia for early November 12th through the end of that December.
So not even like a month.
Yeah, and it was kind of like one of those things where I just knew I wanted to work for him. Wow. I knew I wanted to work for him, and I knew he had brought a lot to the space, and really, really liked his I just felt he was honest. So he actually ended up quitting. I didn't know why at the time. Okay. I had no idea.
Yeah. But this was someone that you trusted and you valued. So it was probably going to be like wherever he went, you'd probably fall in line.
Yeah. But the way it panned out really was I just kept my head down and kept to myself and worked that first month. And had a really, really good first month. I had 10 closed sales that month, but I think only 8 actually went to install.
Still, that's a high install rate.
Yeah. And I just said, it's this formula. We learned it at training. There's this formula, do this. And then, if it doesn't work, then it wasn't for me, is how my mind was thinking. Yeah. But for me, it was more so like, I've been in sales for this long. If I can't do door to door, then like, I'm actually not a good salesperson. That's like literally how I was thinking. I was like, this is really sales, I don't have a customer list. I don't have anybody I'm going back to that has bought from me before.
Yeah.
So it's just all, your own lead generation. So it's just different, and you're in the home, which is different from corporate. But I did exactly what he told me to do. And even after he left, did exactly what I was supposed to do.
You just kept doing it.
Yeah. And it was December too. So it was like a slow.
Yeah. So to be throwing up like 10 deals in December when most of us are either like resting, hanging out with family and things like that definitely says a lot.
And I had this mindset of like, okay, they say that it doesn't matter if it's a holiday, so I'm just going to stick with that.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I was like, well, people are going to be gone. It's Thanksgiving and Christmas. Like people are bound to be gone.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really the case. But I loved it immediately.
Yeah.
I knew it was for me, but the problem was I didn't feel like I fit in where I was. And Zach leaving made me kind of question that a little bit, of course, but we weren't really in conversation about me working with him until much later, probably the end of March.
Holy cow.
Just because of like non-competes and things like that, you can't.
So what were you doing? So in that grace period, you went and you slated in a company in one of, for the rest of the industry, our slow season, you go and do 10 accounts. And then you have this like limbo phase of, management and companies and things like that. Like what were you doing and how did you navigate the unknown during those like 3 months?
So, because I just knew, I didn't actually know, but because I just felt like in my heart, like things were going to pan out how they were supposed to. Like I knew I wanted to be in door to door. I actually, shout out to Ion. I was at Ion for a few weeks. I love everybody at Ion. Like I really do. But just the way that I could see myself in the space was more so like, I want to grow a team and I was more at that like stage that you say like the impactful, right?
Yes.
Like, and it's more than just me making a paycheck. Yeah. And I felt like I was just, setting appointments, but I wasn't really going to grow the way I thought that I could.
Yeah.
And I'm 34. So it's not like I'm about to be 35. Like, so I want it to be something that I want to wake up every day, like excited to do more meaningful. Than just, Mm-hmm. So I actually just traveled for a little bit, January really through March, took a couple of trips, like kind of worked a little bit at Ion, not knowing what was going to happen. And then kind of like had, to be honest, I was a little bit discouraged moving from Arcadia to a new company.
Yeah.
Didn't have the best, like well wishes when I left the first one, like quite literally.
Yeah.
And solar being the kind of wild, wild west that it is, I have never left a job where I hadn't had a boss that was like, you can come back whenever you want. Like, we wish you the best of luck. Here's a recommendation.
And so to have that was probably...
Took the wind out of my sails for a second. I was just a little bit like, okay, well, like, is this how all the space is?
Yeah.
Like, is this normal for, a leader to make me feel this way? And then... it is a lot harder just to pick back up where you left off when you're like, okay, well, things were going really well except for this one little area, So when Zach approached me, saying, it was so hypothetical to me at the time. I was like, what do you mean we're going to start this thing?
Yeah.
Be a part of something bigger, and solar's the widget is what he says. But like, we're a part of this way bigger thing. And at the time I'm like, what is this guy talking about? Like, this is so like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But it is the case now. So really like what we want to build, from the ground up is, especially when it comes to, and the way his leadership skills are, it's like, we want people to know that we're there to support them. They're not just a number.
Huh.
So we're growing a lot slower, but it's because we want to build the culture along with the growth of the company. So it's,
So for you, basically starting a company from ground up, like not even 1 year in door to door, being freaking 34 years old and a female in this space, like, because there are a lot of women who are like, hey, I want to run a team, I want to be able to manage. Like, what are some ways that you're navigating, your first time leader, like there in your company? Like, how are you navigating this?
And it's all like learning. So Zach is really like the brains behind all of this. That's the biggest thing. But his just real belief in me and his patience and like how. It's just, I started closing, June of last year.
Sheesh.
So really, as we were growing, I kind of like got thrown into it. Like, yes, I always said I want to be a closer. I want to be a closer, you know?
And then when it's time, it's like,
yeah. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, my nerves and all this stuff. So now it's
That's
like,
everyone.
it's could be, yeah, it become more second nature, but it's, his conviction in the process. Like, there's never been a time where we question numbers, or he's saying, okay, we should have higher numbers. You know, this is the trajectory at which we want to grow, and we're doing it the right way. And it might be slower than, you know, what some companies value or think is, you know, good numbers.
Yeah.
But we have a focus in the growth of that person. Wow. So I think my biggest thing is like, find someone who believes in you and isn't going to question the growth. Because like, he puts me at the front line of things that I wouldn't have ever had the opportunity to be at the front line of when I was at the other company. So it's like,
I think sometimes we probably take that for granted, like just that simple line of finding someone that you trust who's going to be able to help you develop into the person that you want to be. For those of you women who are out there wanting to lead, who are wanting to grow, who are wanting to move up, if you don't have someone on your team or in your circle that you can basically attach your, business life to, you need to find someone else, you know, whether it's in the company or on a different team,
right.
Or anything like that. Like, do it. But what I want to talk about as well, and I know a lot of people reach out to me, how am I like navigating the home life, the relationships? Like, you are in a relationship, you basically, your boyfriend works for you, you are a manager, you're running a team. How are you navigating the relationship and nurturing that, all while still nurturing like your team and what you want to do?
Yeah, and that's a huge learning curve too, because you think that, like, you know, management in some way, like from all my other jobs and all that, like it's not the same because it's so much more of a family than it is just like, I'm going to work. Like, these are people that I love hanging out with on the weekends. Like, we all live in Vegas, we go to shows together, we like hanging out with each other.
I love that.
So it's me. I mean, I won't lie. I'm not necessarily always the best at it because sometimes I'm like, well, you know, I said this. Why didn't you do it this way? In the beginning, that was a lot harder for me. Yeah. But now it's more of, okay, I understand that not everyone's gonna learn the same way that I do or progress the same exact way that I do. Yeah. And I can't, I mean, you'll hear it everywhere. I mean, Shay and I talk about it all the time, Shay Wisdom. You can't manage the people, you have to manage the systems. And in the beginning, that was all brand new for all of us at Everest. So Everest Smart Energy is and it was all new. I mean, we were using Google Docs last May. Oh my god! It was just Zach's closing, me setting, and using like Google Docs. Yeah, just like putting them in solo, like separate, just like completely like different now. Now we're we're all set up, but it really is managing the systems. And then I'm always there to encourage. Like, I want to be knocking with someone when I'm not in an appointment. Yeah, leading from the front is huge. Like, I will never expect anyone to do the amount or do more than I'm willing to do.
And I love that you said that. For us as women, it's sad to say, and I'm gonna ask you this in a second, but I know one of the ways that I'm able to obtain respect is production, is leading, is working, is knocking. And so for those of you women who are looking for ways to be able to earn the respect of leaders or people on your team, like, yeah, you don't want to be stepped on, you don't want to like have people like use you and things like that, but you need to be out there. Right. Like, how many people are after an appointment, or if it cancels or whatever, they're sitting in their car and waiting for a lead. And, you know, for yourself, like getting out there and knocking with these guys, like, I kind of want to ask you, like, how have you earned the respect of your team members? Like, how have you earned the respect as like a female leader there in Vegas?
Yeah. Well, just in general, just the focus. And I think my whole team can agree that, you know, I do work probably a lot more than I did even last summer. Like, I'm all in. Like, I would guess Zach always says there's 3 versions. There's the people that are trying it, there's the all-ins, and then there's the lifers, right? But
the lifers.
Yeah, and I consider myself a lifer, and obviously that could change in
what's the difference? What's the definition between like a lifer and an all-in?
Yeah, we were just talking about this last week. So all in is like you're all in, but you're in it for like maybe a certain amount of time.
Got it.
And then the lifers are like I want to build something great. Like you have this whole community of women that it's so cool to connect because it's very much so different. It's a different space when it just comes to, there's not as many women in the door-to-door space, right?
There just isn't.
Yeah, so but the biggest thing is having like someone say like, I am going to help mentor you and help you grow into like who this person is that you could become.
I love that.
And I think back to like when I was in entry-level sales and I literally knew nothing. And I'm going like business to business, like, it's the same, it's not the same, but it's like the same process, the same cadence. But you have to have someone that like believes in you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then sometimes even like, the confidence boost of like, I'm really proud of you. Like today might have not gone the exact way that you planned, but like, I'm really proud of you for like getting up, getting out there, getting into hood, knocking the doors, even though it was, raining, you had a crappy day, whatever, but that encouragement. So it's just, I try to think of like what I would want as a good leader. So it's, I shout out to my team because I'm not always, sometimes I think the easiest, but I mean well. Always.
No, and I agree. And that's kind of like something that I want to talk about because I'm probably the same. Like I feel like for female leaders, it's just kind of like we are probably like more firm, than maybe like some of the guys because it's just like a way of earning, retaining, and maintaining success that sometimes we're kind of just like setting those boundaries, but it's just like in the back of our minds, it's like I still need to show to the company that, I deserve the spot, right? That I am here. Like, how do you navigate, those emotions of you're probably having your reps go and do things that maybe they don't want to do, or maybe you're having a conversation in a way that they don't want it. Like, how are you dealing, with the hard conversations that comes with, okay, yes, I'm not the best, and yes, I'm new and I'm learning, but I'm going to need you to trust me. Like, how are you navigating those types of conversations being so new?
Yeah, and I won't lie, I do lean on Zach quite a bit for how to like respond in some ways. Because sometimes, and you were talking about, and I hopefully I answered it somewhat, but like even when it comes to like my relationship, working with my boyfriend, like there's a time and a place to talk about those things, and it's definitely not like, for example, right before we hit doors. It's not right before we're out and I've learned that because I've sometimes not realized that, and then I'm like, well, it's fine, like I just said what I was thinking, and then okay, go out and knock doors now, but there's a time and a place for it. Like we don't talk about work once a certain time hits in the evenings, like with Kai and I, but then I know that, my team can always reach out to me. It doesn't matter like the time of night and all those things, but I truly am navigating it like it's new. Every single conversation is new to me day to day. Yeah. And a lot of times I'll be like, I don't know how to answer this, and like ask Zach how to. Yeah. But I think the biggest thing is, especially like when you're new, and I didn't learn this until probably 5 years into being in sales, but you have to lean on your resources. Yeah. And so you want to know, like back to the mentor thing, like I trust all the advice from my mentors. Yeah. Like no matter who I'm calling, I have like probably like 2 to 3 that I call frequently.
That's awesome.
But I know that I'm always going to get a solid answer from them and be able to probably navigate that better than maybe I could myself if I didn't know.
No, and I love that. And I want to just give a shout out to all the male like mentors and leaders like in the space, especially mine. Like those of you men out there who see potential in women and show up for them, like you guys are literally some of the strength that we need. And for those of you women in this space, like who are looking to move up, like be the type of leader that you wanted. Like reach out to other women. Like I'm super grateful for what we're trying to create in this space as far as a community for those of us female leaders in this space. And I know that there's going to be other people who are going to want to use you as a resource, right, who's going to want to ask you for your help and things like that. And so for me and being able to be in the space, like I know that we're not always going to make the women happy. We're not always going to gain the respect of men. But even with that being said, like what would be some tips or some feedback that you would give to newer women who are wanting to be leaders? Like, what kind of like advice would you give them?
I would say my biggest piece of advice in terms of like leading is like never always lead with the best intentions and never in any way lead in fear. So and I've learned that just because I've had so many good mentors and I have very few bad stories about, the way, I was treated as far as a leader goes.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing, especially in the solar space, is you should be able to reach out to anybody in the space and get advice from anybody in the space.
1000%.
And there isn't any reason, like we're, pure, whatever, it doesn't matter what company you're at. You should be able to reach out to those people, and you, especially as a woman, be able to take advantage of that space and that community.
Yeah.
And if you don't have leaders that are allowing you to take advantage of that space and that community, then that's the problem.
Yeah. I agree 1,000%. I remember like starting back in 2008, like to see this, what you and I are doing in the same room, working for a different company, unheard of. It's not something that people or even like women do in this space. So to be able to see it evolve and come to, 26 of us women are going to be meeting, this week and being able to collab and give feedback and help and community. For those of you women in this space who are looking for mentorship, who are looking for leaders, who are looking for community, take the time to reach out via social media, via email, via text, via GroupMe, via whatever the heck that it is. If you guys aren't taking the time to actually reach out and ask for help, how are people supposed to know? And again, for those of you who are not in my company or not in Morgan's company, for me, the logos, it does not matter.
Right. We all have the same mission.
Yes. Like we want to be successful here. We want to grow. And so for those of you women out there in this space who are new into leadership, for those of you women in this space who are looking to move up, reach out. Find Morgan via social media, reach out to me, reach out to Alex Hall, to Lindsay. There's just so many people in this space who are wanting to help you guys move up. And again, to you men out there who are already nurturing, who are already mentoring us and already like, giving a helping hand to those of us women in this space, like, thank you. And just as Morgan, found uncertainty in leading and still doing it, like, I just want to give you props, like legitimately to be able to like watch the space where you started from and like where you are now and kind of just how you're taking charge. Like, I give you respect, like not knowing what's going to be happening, not knowing what we're doing, but we're still showing up every single day. And we need more women like that here in this space that don't know, are going to be lifers and kind of like move in. Again, thank you for your time. Thanks for sharing your story. And again, for those of you women out there who want to reach out to Morgan or who may be in Vegas, where can they find you?
I'm on Instagram as Morgan Nicole, and that's probably the easiest way.
Yeah, I feel like
I don't think I should put my phone number on.
Yeah, no, I'm already going to have all the guys in my DMs talking about, is Morgan single? No, friends. She was literally talking about Kai on our podcast. Yeah, okay.
Best partner ever.
She's like, best partner. Again, for those of you women out there who are moving into leadership, don't do it out of fear. Do it with the best intentions. See you next time. Thanks for taking the time to tune in. If I've added any kind of value to your thoughts on knocking doors, please share this podcast with another female rep. Until next time, know that you are capable, you are valued, and most importantly, you are enough.